But what would you say to people who say, well, what's Bernie going to do for families, for retirees?
First, let's answer the question, why does he do so well among young people? And I think that's an important thing, which is that young people, if you really think about what's happened in the last, I don't know, you want to go back to the year, 2000, right? 2000, you get the dot-com bust, you get 9/11, you get the Enron scandal, you get the Iraq War, George Bush, Dick Cheney, you get the financial collapse, the recession, right? I mean, that's a pretty bad run. That's a really bad run.
Well, and we got 8 years of Obama too, and things got worse. So there is like a lot of sort of suspicion of, say,
inequality
status
increased,
quo candidates.
Inequality increased. So
housing horrible.
So for young people, that's not a great run. And so I would argue that Bernie does well among young people because he's offering up concrete proposals to actually make things better. Now, what does Bernie offer to other, age demographics? Look, this is a guy who I used to work for Bernie 20 years ago when I first got out of college. I worked for him. And one of the first experiences that I had with him was busing seniors over the border from Vermont to Canada to buy lower priced prescription drugs, to highlight the fact that Canada has much lower prices for the same prescription drugs because Canada allows basically price regulation of pharmaceuticals. And I tell that story because he's still fighting that fight, and that fight is a fight that disproportionately affects seniors who need medication.
Right.
So the fight against the corporate forces that he's up against is quite often a fight for people, particularly older people or people on the verge of retirement. I mean, he's pushing to expand Social Security. He's had this ongoing battle with the pharmaceutical industry. He had a bill to block corporations from slashing the pensions that they promised. It was a bill that in previous administrations have used the power to basically renege on the retirement promises to older workers. So,
well, and Biden's just willing to slash Social Security and all manner of things, like anything that, disproportionately helps the elderly. It's really biting the hands that feeds for someone like him.
I mean, I think the question about Bernie, and you look in the polls, and he is not doing as well among older voters. And I mean, the question about why that is, I mean, it's a tough question. I mean, I don't know if it's potentially a suspicion or fear of change, of change that's fast. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but what I can tell you is that I think that in this campaign, you're going to see Bernie focusing on making sure that his agenda and what he's proposing for seniors to support
good because they vote
secure retirement. I mean, that's going to be a big focus of his. Like, it's going to be a really big focus of his.
Right. And families. I think it's much easier to talk about something like free public university than it is maybe something like childcare. Bernie's brought up childcare. Do you think that's something he's going to flesh out?
Yeah, I think he will. Look, I mean, I think every couple of weeks we've been rolling out, our campaign's been rolling out policy. I think to your point about family, I mean, look, not to sound like a broken record, but the idea of basic economic rights. Look, I've got two young kids. We are saving for college as much as we can to help them with college. It's, as a parent, it's frankly a kind of an awful idea that if my kids, if and when they want to go to college, that they'll have to potentially be saddled with debt. So the debt cancellation, tuition-free public colleges, that's as much a selling point, to my mind, to young people as it is to parents who are afraid of that. I mean, who wants to have your kid be like, "Hey, kid, so glad you got into college. That's great. You're going to have a massive amount of debt," right? No parent wants to have that.
And no one wants to look down at their little baby and look at a $120,000 bill from a liberal arts college.
I mean, exactly, right? So I think like that agenda, that piece of the agenda. And I do think that people sometimes misunderstand who this policy agenda necessarily can appeal to.
Sure.
So for, debt-free college, that must be for young people. Actually,
polls now show that seniors are starting to support like debt-free college because they see their grandchildren suffering.
And of course, then there's also been a rise. I mean, this is kind of mind-boggling, a rise in the number of literally senior citizens who still have student debt.
God! I saw an AARP article on it.
I mean,
it was insane. They were like, it was. I'll try and find it, but it was however many percent of seniors are now currently paying off university student debt. It's like, wow, normal country, real healthy normal country.
How to use your reverse mortgage to pay off your student loan?
Oh my God,
it's incredibly depressing.
That's so horrifying.
So yeah, I guess what I want people to take away from this is that you should be able to talk to almost anyone about Bernie. Maybe not exactly anyone, but almost anyone. And it's actually pretty easy. I've been a socialist for 10 years, like a dues paying one. And in that time, I've done all kinds of things. And I did Planned Parenthood work, and I did like Occupy Wall Street, hated every minute of it. And I did political campaigns and all kinds of social movements. But I can honestly say that Bernie Sanders is the greatest political opportunity of my lifetime. They don't happen that frequently, and we have a real shot. We're going to have to thread the needle, and we might not win, but if we don't, I don't want it to be because I didn't do everything in my power possible. I maxed out on donations, and I'm going to donate a bunch of my time, and I hope you'll join me in some way. So I wonder if you could just sort of talk to us about what we can do to help Bernie.
Sure, and I appreciate that. Because there's a difference between saying I support somebody and being willing to do what's necessary. Now, here's the bad news. I don't have any magic bullet. There's no one thing I'm going to say that's like, oh, that's the one thing I got to do and that'll just fix everything. Winning politics is ultimately can be a real grind. It's not, I wouldn't call it boring, but it's not
tedious at times.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's a grind. It's a slog, right? So
a schlep, as Bernie might say.
There you go. Like the idea is that you have to talk to as many people as you can, and ideally, you're talking to as many persuadable people to bring them out to vote. I mean, I can tell you this. Last year, when my wife ran for state legislature in Colorado, I mean, a race like that, it was sort of in Colorado, was kind of a big primary. I mean, sort of small, a teeny version of the Bernie primary. And ultimately, it came down to you got to knock on a zillion doors, right? You got to knock on the right doors. Like you ideally want to knock on everyone's doors, but like you can't knock on absolutely everyone's doors. So you got to knock on.
We're not doing like
doors.
The overly deterministic Hillary thing where we're like, we're going to knock on the same 3 doors 10,000 times, but there's better doors than others.
Right. So all of that is to say, how do you communicate with the right people? So the first thing that we have is the app, Burn. I don't know if you've seen the app. It's pretty amazing. Okay.
I know. I know about the app.
So everybody can go to app.berniesanders.com, which will basically help you know the people in your communities who you can work with to canvass your neighborhood. And then you basically take down the feedback that you get from canvassing, which helps the campaign in an ongoing way communicate with those potentially persuadable voters. You can also check out map.berniesanders.com to find events in your community that are happening, organizing events, phone banking events, and the like. A lot of the events are actually pretty fun. Like
phone banking parties are really fun. I'm going to have one.
They are. And then there's soon going to be on our website, I'm told it's not there just yet, but will be there very soon, which is the phone dialer, where it will basically help you connect you with the calls of the voters that we need to get out. People who have either been open to the campaign or are potential volunteers of the campaign. And I want to be clear, this is not like super sexy stuff. This is like, a real slog. I would also say
Absolutely.
this. I would encourage people to make them fun. I mean, when we did phone banking for my wife, I mean, it was like, we had beer and pizza. It was, it's a pretty fun time. But then again, you're calling like a zillion people and just talking to strangers and asking them.
Sure, it's not raising the red flag at the Reichstag. That'll be later. But so let's see here. Phone banking,
Right.
door knocking.
Right.
We've got the apps.
Right.
And every little dollar helps.
Yes, absolutely. I should have said that. Yes. Obviously, contributing. You can become a monthly contributor at the website, berniesanders.com. You can do a one-time donation. I mean, look, he's not, I'm sure everybody knows this, he is not relying on big money voters. I mean, he's not doing these huge, fundraisers for, with large donors. So he needs as many people to give as possible. And by the way, I should mention, if you can give, that's great. If you know 5 other people who you can each throw in $5, $10, $15, that's great, right? I mean, you can hold a small dollar fundraiser for Bernie. I mean, there's, you can get in touch with the campaign about, surrogates and organizing these events. And again, those events are available on map.berniesanders.com.
Right. Well, look, whether it's time or money or both, everyone can help in some way. And like I said, we have a real shot here. I'm going to be doing everything I can, and I hope you'll join me. We'll include all of those links on the episode description if they fit, and we'll be
I would
tweeting
agree
them
with you
out.
about one last thing I want to say, which is the idea of us having a real shot. I mean, this campaign really does have a real shot, and your point about it, a real shot for the kind of candidate Bernie is, coming around so infrequently. I mean, I don't want to say it's a once every 100-year phenomenon. But
It's pretty rare.
I mean, it's real. If you really look back on history, it is really rare that a candidate with his politics, who is building a grassroots movement that is independent from the power structure. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of I don't think there's a lot of examples of that in history that has a real shot to actually win a national election.
They're not particularly in America, and I got to say, I didn't really see Bernie coming. It's not my sort of political socialist tradition. I believe that, a lot of people are like, Bernie won't bring socialism. Well, no, he won't. I firmly believe, very traditional Marxist, that only an invigorated trade union movement will bring socialism. But Bernie could really help out getting the boots off of the union's neck. And to me, that is going to be absolutely essential. It's a big deal. It's a presidential election that might actually make a difference. Usually they don't.
It's huge.
It's huge. All right. So on that note, thank you so much, David Sirota, for joining us.
It is a total honor to be on my favorite podcast.
Well, thank you.
David, go on Chapo.
He wins,
All right.
folks. It happened.
All right. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.